your long-standing legacy around conservation seems to also be unpacked, or rather broken down, by your predecessor. Mr. President, this surely cannot continue.
Everything associated with me or my legacy is a target. You know, every president has the right to come out with their own policy. But one would hope that it would be, especially having come from the same party, it would be a policy building up and improving on your predecessor.
Yes.
That's what it should be about. But his whole thing was just to dismantle everything that I had done. If you have tourism based on wildlife, you've got to have wildlife. So we instituted a ban on hunting.
Yes.
Okay. We were able to stabilize poaching to the extent that here in South Africa, for example, people were willing to donate rhinos, very iconic and threatened species, even in this country, to Botswana for safekeeping. That's what some of them said to us. And in my term in office, in 10 years, we lost one rhino to poachers. The amount of animals, rhinos that were put out into the wild in Botswana during our time, which we had built up, about 2/3 of them have been poached out under his watch. He just cares less about the environment, about wildlife. He gave fellow heads of state elephant footstools, as presents. The poaching has gone, out of hand. And you can ask anybody who knows anything about the tourism in our country to know what a sorry state we're in right now. So everything we had achieved, which we worked hard for, has just been eroded by this man. During the time I was in office, we remained the least corrupt country on the continent. We've lost that ranking now.
Now, the founder president of Botswana, your father, President Khama, basically had a solid foundation around democracy. What do you think he would say about the state of governance now in your country?
If I had a difficult decision to make and I wasn't quite sure what direction to take, I would say to myself, what would my father do in this situation? And then in most cases, something would come to me and then I would follow that. It is just obvious to me that he would be extremely pained by what he created with others. Everybody bought into this democracy of Botswana. Everyone participated in it. Everyone wanted it to succeed. I think of even the days before independence. If we thought this is where Botswana is today, after everything they tried to do to make it a success that it did become, now eroded, he must be extremely, extremely pained by what's going on.
So what is the solution to this issue? What are you calling on Botswana to do in Botswana to try and reverse this erosion that you describe?
So to the people of Botswana, just continue voting like they've been voting at the moment, and not to allow the illegalities and the abandonment of rule of law, because we have seen that as well, the rule of law being undermined, that they themselves have become the criminals. They are breaking the law. And I said somewhere, virtually to a public rally, the act of burning the minister's car is a crime. It's criminality. But they are the ones who have taught our people to become criminals. And how long can they expect people to abide by the law when they are not abiding by the law? So when you start engaging in unlawful acts, people are also going to engage in unlawful acts. One way you can judge the stability of a country, the peacefulness of the country, is for any country's leader to be able to walk around in public without any security. How many could do that and get away without being insulted, assaulted, or assassinated? And now I used to say in Botswana, I was confident I could walk anywhere and not be scared of anything like that.
I could see you doing that.
Yes, I used to do that. Yeah. With him, look at that, the size of that escort. There are about 17 vehicles, army, police, DIS, you know.
Not very Botswana.
And you say,
character.
Where's the modesty?
Yes.
You know, when you go around with an escort bigger than maybe the American presidents, surrounded by soldiers and police, and they'd gone in there, and of course going to Soroy, he was so scared that something may happen to him. And when you have a situation where a leader is scared of his own people, it means that he has alienated himself from them so much.
Have you tried to reconcile with Mr. Masisi? Because it's really affecting the state of democracy and governance in Botswana.
Well, there have been attempts, both at home, within that ruling party, by elders. There have been attempts by some in the clergy. Recently, there was an attempt by my tribe, elders from my tribe, to go and meet him, to try and say, let's sort this thing out. The delegation from the tribe wrote a letter to him in November last year to ask to see him. And 4 months passed without him seeing them, despite their ongoing attempts. Eventually, they just said, well, we're abandoning that now. We're giving up. There have been a couple of regional attempts, which I would ask you not to go into for now, because it's still work in progress, and by one or two other governments. But so far, they're also not bearing fruit, because what I'm told, he's not receptive.
What does the future hold for Ian Khama himself? Do you see yourself returning to Botswana, or is the plan really to continue fighting for democracy in your country from South Africa?
I'm going to return to my country,
right,
and I'm going to fight for democracy in my country and here, whilst I'm here in South Africa, or wherever else I choose to go between now and the next elections. Because I have a lot of communication engagement with people from Botswana, as you'd understand. You know, virtually. People come here to visit. I've been visiting leaders of the various parties here to ensure that we get the country back to what it was before.